Let me talk about inclusion. There's something very special about language, and it's hard for us, maybe if we're monolinguistic and we've learned one language, that's the language we speak. But because the world is getting smaller and all the languages around the globe are mixing all in together in our cities and around, where school systems that used to be like literally monolinguistic are now, like when I was a child, it was only English. I don't know that we had anybody that spoke any other language. In that same school system, there's now between 13 and 17 languages spoken. Let me just say this. When congregations make an effort to include the language groups, even if it's a recognition, or like we started years ago, we changed our Christmas Eve midnight service. We started doing it bilingually. We did it in English and in French. And it was because we come from a French-English city, it was huge. People began to weep when they heard the scriptures being read in French. People also, after the service, I remember this was probably 12, 13 years ago, when we started this, people actually repented because they felt that they had been insensitive over the years of even telling ethnic jokes. And then when they started realizing we were attracting more and more people that English was not their first language, it sort of changed the congregation a little bit. Language is an interesting thing. It's the head and the heart. At one point, we did our Christmas Eve service, the midnight one especially, in 5 different languages. It was laborious, but what it does to say we include you, and that's something massive in the heart. So just to the congregations that are multicultural, remember, it's not just multicultural, it really is multilinguistic. Anything you can do in your setting, that's yours. I mean, that's going to be applied differently depending on where you are. But anything you can do that includes linguistically, it's a big thing. Even if it's a little thing, it's very loud. We've also learned this. There's something about families of different ethnicities and linguistic groups that have migrated to our land. When they are well received, I mean welcomed, the word amongst the international the community, those that have made their way here, the word begins to get out there that, hey, that's not just an Anglo church. We've watched this with people, Filipinos, Tagalog. At one point, they had a Tagalog small group. That spread around the community. We did not target the Filipino community. But once a few families made connection, and they would just struggle with a few words in Tagalog, and then, we started having some parties. Inclusion is a big deal. And coming to each other's house. When you eat at somebody's table and they eat at your table, there's a bond. When you say some words in their language, it goes deep. So let me just say this. As we talk of diversity, this linguistic thing's a big deal. And I am the least likely candidate to have ever gotten so mixed up in all of this. I come from a very closed, homogeneous, white Anglo, English-speaking, and yet as a very young man, God just put me out around the world, and it just became, now it's just a passion. It's a part of our life. I wouldn't even know how to function without it, so it's a big deal.